Tinnitus. Hissing, buzzing, whistling, beeping, or ringing in the ear. This is tinnitus, sound in the ears, which each person can hear only for themselves. The ear noise varies in severity. For some people it has a huge impact on daily life, causing stress, anxiety, anger, and sleep problems. This ear noise is not considered curable. A patient, 30 years old, married, housewife, and mother of 5-year-old son, works 20 to 30% as a housekeeper. She has been suffering from tinnitus for more than 6 months. Right ear whistling noise, left ear a muffled noise and heartbeat. She can no longer sleep, is irritable, nervous, restless, tired, cannot concentrate during the day. Her digestion is disturbed. She has a diarrhea alternating to constipation, has an extreme craving for coffee and sweets. She no longer knows what to eat because she reacts to everything with flatulence and burning stomach. Edema forms in her legs and eyelids. The tinnitus becomes unbearable. First, she learns relaxation techniques, meditation, takes warm baths. The tinnitus becomes a little calmer. Now she is ready to find out the cause. Ear problems are a reflex reaction of the kidneys. Something got to her kidneys. The ear has to do with letting in, but also with obedience, not wanting to listen anymore, not wanting to follow. About 6 months ago, she was called at her son's kindergarten. Patients describe this day of her son in public kindergarten. Because she and her son are foreigners, the son should learn to fit in. He speaks and understands the language of the country as well as anyone else, is lively, curious, and full of temperament, but both are supposed to follow a program where they learn to curb their temperament and adapt with a smile. This repression angers the mother. She wants to see her son grow up creatively and childlike, but feels the xenophobia. The ears receive this message. This energy is passed on into the body, and it's checked for possible execution. It hits the mother like a blow in the stomach, a knife in the back. It gets to her kidneys. The first clear defensive reaction is a lump in the throat. The heart becomes tight in the chest. The mother's heart fears for her son's well-being, his restriction of joy, creativity, childlike curiosity. She sees her own suppression as a child, learned restraint, like a child in prison, and fears not being able to let her son live the free development of his talents. She gets a stomachache. The small intestine, as the imperious private secretary, the heart, wants to process these memories and fears of the mother, probably digest them, file them away, and make the best results from them available to the body. The preschool director, however, threatens to refuse to admit the son to the preschool. The heart pumps oxygen, filled blood through all parts of the body, including the kidneys. The kidneys clean the blood by removing waste products and excess water. Without the kidneys, the blood would contain too much waste and water. The kidneys control the regulation of extracellular fluid volume. They work to ensure that there is enough plasma for the blood to flow to the vital organs. The ears are the reflecting organs of the kidneys. As the ears relay this information throughout the body, the kidneys respond as the central solar energy organ and heat regulation organ. The reception of the information produces coldness and rigidity in the body of the mother. It seems as if the kidneys stop working for a moment. Regulation of body heat, regulation of osmolarity, regulation of ion concentration, regulation of the pH value, excretion of waste products and toxins, production of hormones, all of which seems to hold his breath for a moment. Pressure builds up in the body. Several cells, like cars, are jammed in the roads, blood vessels like roads. Lymph channels like water channels are overflowing with transport goods. The mother tries to find a clear thought. She has to submit and endure this straining misery with her son. So the mother forces herself into this misery and suppresses her own personality for the good of the hostile outer society. The inner voice of self-respect and the outer voice of conformity come into war. Tinnitus is the inner hearing versus outer compulsion. Tinnitus is caused by a constriction of the blood vessels in the ear and increased volume pressure. This increased pressure in the bloodstream is the hissing, whistling, and so on in the ears. Diarrhea wants to put on passage, in at the top, out of the back, in through one ear, out the other. Constipation is the attachment to unpleasant memories, criticism, injustice. Can't let go, shows injustice and the resulting anger cannot be let go. It concentrates and physically attracts minerals, salts, which turn the intestinal contents. Extreme desire for coffee, addiction to adrenaline for motivation to do the right thing, possibly even to wage war and fight back. Appetite for sweets, needs balm for hard feelings. Edema in the eyelids, not wanting to see anymore, drawing, having drops. Unshed tears are stored as salts in the eyelids. Edema in the legs. Water is equal to feelings. Unexpressed feelings accumulate and illustrate a heavy work for the next steps. Flatulence. Behavior of the preschool leader is perceived as being inflated. Stomach burns. Stomach is the father of well-being. In the familiar, comfortable home it burns, fallen out of the feeling of well-being. Hypertension. According to WHO criteria, one speaks of arterial hypertension if there is a systolic blood pressure higher than 140 mm Hg or a diastolic blood pressure higher than 90 mm Hg permanently and independent of the situation. The persons affected often even feel particularly fit and alert. Only very high blood pressure sometimes triggers complaints. Typical symptoms of hypertension are headaches, often in the morning, dizziness, nausea, facial flushing, nosebleeds, insomnia, fatigue, and ringing in the ears, also tinnitus. The systolic value, the high value, shows the beating power of the heart as it expels blood from the heart in the systemic circulation. The diastolic value, the low value, shows the resting phase of the heart, the phase where the heart opens to feel and receive. Patient is 54 years old, married, no children, bank employer, born at the beginning of April, already had high blood pressure, 145 to 96 mm Hg, 15 years ago, and has been on medication since then. Many different side effects of the medication cause him to do something. At the age of 39, the patient was promoted in the management of the bank. Since the promotion, he has had blood pressure problems. Born under the star sign of Aries, he has the feeling that he has to be particularly good, that he has to appear firm and tenacious to the outside world. But every new change scares him and challenges him. He analyzes, broads, studies problems for a long time. Patient complains about hip and knee problems, digestive problems, diarrhea, intestinal cramps, headaches, restless eyeballs, depression. Problems with issues like implement, enforce, apply, not having clarity, should I or shouldn't I. In ancient medicine, the small intestine is the partner organ of the heart and the private secretary of the imperial heart. All matters of the body are checked, censored, analyzed, evaluated, and approved by the private secretary. If the private secretary is overburdened with too much thinking, fears, worries, he will have to constantly consult the imperial. The restlessness of the imperial stimulates his beating power, the systole, and reduce his resting potential, the diastole. The imperial can no longer rest, can no longer relax, and receive diastole increases. Ancient medicine assigned the small intestine and the heart to the fire element and connects to the emotion being hurt, being abandoned, rejection, I am not worth of being loved. The small intestine is the organ of analysis and censoring of knowledge and equality in diversity. The organ of processing metabolism, it senses and processes food components. Here the digestion of the gross food takes place down to the molecular level. If the small intestine is supported here with enzymes, proper nutrition, sleeping time. The patient can also feel joy, warmth, enthusiasm, and integration again, and thus face his fears of failure. Many of the symptoms could be elevated within a short time, and the antihypertensive medication could be discontinued.